Welcome to the Hello AO podcast, Faith Tech podcast by the community for the community. Currently living and growing in the Faith Tech Slack channel and other places. And welcome, Chet Bailey. Show us all the parrot on your shoulder there.
So yeah, I was just saying, I couldn't. If I said this right, it looks like I'm a pirate here.
That's wonderful. That's a beautiful. Show us one more time. My screen froze for a sec. Okay, there it is. Yeah, I love it. Are you in Brazil? Is that correct?
Actually, I'm currently in Argentina.
Argentina.
I just got here. Yesterday. In fact, I was in Brazil.
Wonderful. Would you like to pray for us to open us up?
Sure.
Thank you.
Lord, we thank you. Thank you for Faith Tech. Thank you for Craig and this podcast and the opportunity to get to know each other better. And thank you for the technology that allows us to do this. And we pray for this to just go smoothly and to go well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So what has you in Argentina? Sounds like you're a traveling tech missionary.
Yes. Yeah, so I guess you would call me a virtual tent maker. I'm a digital nomad, and since I can work from anywhere, I like to go places where I can invest in the communities. So I spend a lot of time in Brazil for that reason. Been working, set up a computer classroom in a children's center in a small community along the Amazon, in the jungle along the Amazon. A couple of years ago, worked with a few other communities to just develop some digital literacy and help people there develop some jobs that they can do from their smartphones even. And then yeah, I'm down here in Argentina mainly because I have to spend 3 months out of Brazil. And then coming to Argentina to do a little bit of work with, there's a lot of Russian refugees here. I'll be working with some of those refugees here.
You said Russian refugees?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to flee that side of the world.
Yep.
And that's wow, that's incredible. I love the life that you're living. Are you on your own, or do you have family traveling with you?
Nope, I'm on my own. My wife passed away in 2016. She had a very rare neuromuscular disease that she fought for over 20 years. I ended up being her full-time caregiver for several years during that period.
Wow. Yeah, my sympathies to you, and just sorry for the loss of your wife. And I assume that she was a woman of faith based upon who I guess you to be. And so it sounds like she's feeling much less encumbered now in every faculty there.
Yes. In fact, she had a very strong faith. Her motto was never give up, always hope, live life. And she refused to let the illness keep her down. If there's a lot of things she couldn't do, but she said she could always find something that she could do. And she even started a business that she ran from her bed for a few years, just to give herself something different to do, and to help offset some of the medical costs. But she found she did a lot of charity work. She was very well homebound, but so she had an online life. Even before we really had much going on the internet, she still found a group of people through some dial-up services that were doing knitting and crochet for charities, and got involved in those and made quite a significant community online. And since baby closed all over the world. And so that's part of the reason that I do what I do is because I know that no matter how bad things may be for me, there's other people that I can help out.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful sentiment, and it's so true, right? That's
Yeah.
where we have where we have this endless fount of possibility, no matter how restricted we may be based upon any life circumstances. Being made in the image of God, God gave us this infinite potential to do good, um, and although we can be limited in how we exercise that sometimes, that spark is still there, and moving, and everything that we do for especially the believers, we're doing unto Jesus, as he says in his own words.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
Wow, that is a tragic and redemptive story you have, and I know the one that you're still in the midst of because it's not over.
Right. Yep.
What are you doing? What are you doing today, and how are you primarily serving those around you? It sounds like digital literacy, other things too.
So yeah. So I mean, so literally today I am um, actually launching it's a digital marketing mastermind group with I have had several people that are very interested in a map-based web app to market digital products, location-based digital products. And one of my website is my goal is to set up a map on there that to showcase the projects and photos and things that I do during my travels, and so that my followers can visualize that on the map. And so I've got a few people that have been interested in me setting up something similar for them too. So, and then a lot of us that are digital nomads that look for ways of monetizing some of our travels. And putting that together and working on that. But yeah, while I'm in Argentina, I'm kind of rebuilding some of my income, focusing on doing some of that to get some of my income going again. Because I had been working for a startup that didn't work out.
Sorry to hear that.
Yep. So, but
well, this is. Okay, go ahead, please.
But yeah. So and then. Yeah, so next week I've got be meeting with another group of digital nomads here in Argentina that give back to their community and called Nomads Giving Back. And I'm going to go kind of get involved in some of the stuff that they do here in Argentina.
Well, that's wonderful. I have so many questions about that, but just to pick something to dive into, this is a faith and tech community podcast. Yep. So, let's get technical. Tell me more about this map-based solution. Is it web-based? Is it Cesium? Is it ArcGIS? GIS? Is it something else?
Yeah. So, so the startup I was working for, it's called Rootlow, and we had initially created a social. I said the startup I had been working for was called Rootlow, which we did a social network for remote workers and a map-based employee directory for remote workers. And so I spent the past 3 years doing a lot of stuff, building websites that used maps and plotted data onto maps. And so, so every time when I was out working on things and they'd see me working on that, they're like, "Hey, cool! I want that." And so, so I'm kind of taking some of the things that I learned from that and building and so yeah, I'm using it's all web based. So I use we started off with an iOS app, and I'm like, I don't want to try to develop both an iOS and an Android app and do all that stuff. But let's just start off with a web-based app. Still still can be installed and act just like an app, but much easier to get set up and going. And then after we get that going, then we can look at an app. So, but and that technology works very well. Yeah.
What map solution are you using, or did you make your own?
So that's a map solution. I'm using OpenLayers for this one. I had been using Leaflet, but I kind of wanted something that's going to be a little bit more robust. So since I'm restarting, I'm going to use OpenLayers to just a JavaScript map library.
That's wonderful. And so you built on top of that your own. I mean, we'll call it a layer on top of OpenLayers that
Right. Yep.
that allows you to visualize your journeys, and you're hoping to monetize that a little bit to help others visualize theirs to help support you. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yep. Basically. Yep. Yeah. So I've got one guy that's setting up a business in Thailand, kind of a nonprofit in Thailand, to help raise awareness of some of the different charities and programs there in Thailand. He calls it Inspirational Thailand, and so he's wanting a very similar type of map-based solution where he can show where those different charities are on the map, and then provide information about them. So very similar to what I'm doing with my projects, but he's doing with his charities. So yeah, so we've been kind of talking about this concept of how we can go about doing that, and then I've been doing a lot of research on just digital marketing and specifically looking at how to integrate that with my travels and the location-based stuff. And so yeah, so that's kind of a platform being born out of that.
That's fantastic. I have a lot of interest in the map space because of I've been working on the 3D web for quite a while. And and of course OpenLayers is 2D, but that's still an incredibly powerful tool. I'm just a huge believer in how context is a shared. The map is a social tool for context and for story, right? Yep. And there's so much capability that comes when you can put things in context. My main interest in the map capabilities, 3D preferably, is so that I can use it to help people see and understand the Bible, right? Yep. To see the Bible in context. There's so much possible content that if we can embed that onto a map that was 3D and accessible, that would be that could be an incredibly helpful tool. Yep. And so one of my dreams there is to make that resource available to everyone, and then to invite experts or just anybody who has a passion to contribute. Yep. And it's the open source and public and stuff like that. And then allow the Christian community to kind of grow this, organically grow this contextual map-based knowledge base of a layer of the Bible, right? And there's just so much we could do with that. So that would be it. So that's one of my own interests and passion there, right? And so I've built a number of experiences on top of ArcGIS, which they have. That's used by most of the counties, most of the militaries, most of the governmental agencies out there. Esri is the company that makes it, and ArcGIS is the software. But it's big, it's cumbersome, it's bulky, and it is not easy to use, and it is way expensive. I mean, it is hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have a nonprofit, so I get a license to it for just a few $100s. Otherwise, that wouldn't be possible. But I'm looking to switch to Cesium probably in the future. And I haven't looked extensively into OpenLayers. And so it's just fascinating to be having these conversations with people that are, solving adjacent problems, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a lot of fun. So just so I can compare, I'll show people OpenLayers and I'll show people some of the stuff I've been working on, just so we can set the stage here, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
Because again, faith and tech, right?
Right.
Let's We're not going to do one without the other. Let me see if I can share. I'm going to share a tab. I'm going to share a single tab here. All right. Let me know what you see. Oh, okay, perfect. There we go. So here's open layers, dynamic web-based map tools here, quick start. And so it's all open source. So you're building your own. Are you building an editing tool on top of open layers to help other people edit their own open layer maps on the web? Is that what you're building?
Yes, yeah. So it'll be displayed using open layers, and then the data,
Oh.
Basically just takes the data that's got tagged by location, and present that on the map. And so, I mean, it's basically a blogging platform that, but instead of a list of blog entries, you could tag those blog entries with a location, and it's showing up on a map instead of a list.
Yeah.
So, same thing with photos. That's what I started the idea several years ago. My first mission trip, I had taken my photos and kind of mapped those out using the location data embedded in the photos, and just create a Google map showing some of the different things that I did during my mission trips. And I was like, this is really cool, and I'd like to be able to just load some of those photos in and have it automatically display, so that my followers can kind of see what I've been up to on my different trips, and and then I can highlight other different things, and have an entry that links back to what is essentially a blog post or a page that just like you would with any kind of a blogging platform. But again, just the primary index is going to be a map rather than a list. So and then that whole concept, it's just going to be built out and on an open source platform, and then it could easily be used for all kinds of different tools, or all kinds of different arrangements.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my passions is trying to get the Christian community, at least, it would be wonderful if we could get the whole world, but at least get the Christian community to build solutions that can provide utility to people, but then also be, if we think aspirationally about what's most optimal, be interoperable with other tools, right?
Right.
And so open layers, can you accept JSON as an import and an export?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll share something briefly. I'll share another experience here briefly, if that's okay.
Yep.
And then just talk about some possibilities. And then so we don't focus too much on this, I want to jump back to digital literacy and what else you have going on in your life. But just to nerd out for a second here. So this is an experience that I have a nonprofit that's been working on an experience to help people see the possibilities. AO Lab is the nonprofit, and this is not optimized. And this is an experience that's designed to go into a bookmark. I don't know if you can see my camera here. So I have a bookmark right here. That this is designed. I'll stop sharing for just a second while I show the bookmark here. Stop presenting there. So here's the bookmark where I'm covering up the QR code a little bit, but intentionally. But it's trying to go in your Bible and be like a map-based tool when it's more widely available. It's not available widely yet because of DevOps reasons. I haven't deployed these things yet in a way that I can make it available just yet. But anyway, we won't go through all of this. I'll just take us through a few minutes. I'll just mute for a second while we look at this, if that's okay.
Good.
Did you know that just the land of Israel, the setting of most of the Bible, can tell us volumes about who God is and how we can better live for him today? Welcome to the land between. Take some time to enjoy exploring the earth as we go. If you're on your phone, you can pinch and zoom in or out with your fingers, or all the other ways you might try on your desktop computer are fairly self-explanatory. So go ahead and give it a shot. When you hear me talking from here on out, you won't be able to do so, but as soon as I pause, you can explore. Let's get started. Here we find Israel east of the Mediterranean Sea,
I'll skip
between the
ahead a little bit
continents
here.
of Africa, situated here between a. But Israel was not merely at the crossroads between climates. God intentionally placed his people unavoidably on the only land bridge between the two major ancient trade routes that flowed through Aram and Egypt. Because the deserts east of Israel were dangerously hot and inhospitable, valuable goods and the ideas that traveled with them could not help but intermingle here in the land of Israel before continuing on their journey. Thus, the story of God's strange and remarkable people traveled to both the east, the west, and anywhere else commerce went.
So here we have a 3D map experience that you can explore, and I can zoom in and out and rotate and get additional context and information and things like that. Very much a work in progress, but that shows you the idea a little bit at least.
Pretty cool.
But well, it is, but it's open layers presents a wonderful solution as well, because based upon based upon your bandwidth, based upon what authoring environments you're familiar with, a 2D map in many cases can suffice for like mapping out something like Paul's journey or Paul's missionary journeys. I mean, well, there's so many other examples where the idea would be it'd be wonderful if we had a solution that we could just have this interoperable JSON data layer where we could just take this JSON and go, hey, throw this into open layers and you're going to get this 2D visualization, throw this into Cesium or ArcGIS and you're going to get this 3D visualization if the JSON data supports that, and just kind of allow all of those portals of data to interoperate and allow people to create content that can go across all those devices, or most optimally, have a simulation environment that just checks a user's bandwidth and goes, oh, hey, you're in a low bandwidth environment. We're loading open layers for you. If you have more bandwidth or you want to be in 3D, let's load it over here, but let's just let everything flow together, right?
Right, yep.
I don't know. That's just my food for thought for the day. I'm working on all those things. We'll see. I love the heart, love the mindset, love what you're about, though.
Yep, thanks.
So on open layers, you've been working with open layers for quite a while, it sounds like.
Just getting started with open layers. I had been using Leaflet for several years.
Leaflet, is that a JavaScript library for? This is why I'm talking. I haven't even I'm familiar. What would be the main advantages of open layer over Leaflet, if I can ask?
So open layers is more robust. Leaflet is a simpler library, and so there's so it's a lot. Leaflet has a simpler learning curve, which is why I chose it to begin with when I was trying to work on the other one. But open layers just provides has a little bit more capabilities. Leaflet probably would really suffice for what I'm doing, but I just wanted to start off with, since I'm rebuilding from scratch, I wanted to start off with something that's kind of be able to provide some enhanced capabilities if I need it down the road.
Yeah, nice to build on a more flexible and robust foundation if you can, right?
Yeah, when I first started with Leaflet, the big thing that Leaflet didn't support at that time was OpenGL and vector map layers, which it does now support. So, but that was the main driver between the two back then.
Yeah. Well, this is unrelated, but I'm super excited for Web GPU. That's going to come out in all browsers real soon. It's already been flagged in some beta. I think it's in Chrome beta. And I can't wait for Web GPU will allow the web browsers to access the GPU as well as the CPU. For those who may not be familiar with it, and we should see a 30% boost in just the web in general. Let alone to say those experiences optimized for Web GPU are gonna. Who knows what the new upper limit of the web will be? But
right. Yep.
It's going to be soon.
Yep.
Fascinating. Well, tell me more about the digital literacy stuff that you're up to in Argentina, Brazil, and wherever your travels take you.
So when I went on a mission trip in 2018 to with my church to which does a trip with Ray of Hope Amazon. They
You went where on that?
So it was just along the Amazon River
Wow.
in Brazil, outside of Manaus. Ray of Hope is stationed in Manaus, but they take a river boat up and down the river to villages along the river and do primarily work with the children, and then also do some education with the adults while they're there too, and then but they do it's like what we would call Vacation Bible School. They do little kids camps in these villages, and then while they're there, they also do meet with like uh, the mothers, the adults, the men, and do things like they help them with they take reading glasses out there, and or they'll do some medical first aid type stuff, low level medical care, doing teaching about things like food safety. So in 2018, our church had adopted a village that's about 18 hours down the river from Manaus, um, and we took water filters down because that community did not have safe drinking water, um, and then the following year we installed. We got them. We built a chicken coop for them and bought some chickens to help provide some better food sources for that community. And then the following year we did we drilled a well for that community. Um,
Wow.
but while I was there, we sat down and talked to them, and we said, okay, what kind of issues do you have? What do you need? And they said, well, our biggest issues is, we just don't have, reliable access to food, and we don't have jobs, and we don't have money to, we have to go to the city to buy food and fuel and building supplies, but we just don't have money for those things, and we don't have jobs here, so people leave here to go find jobs out and down the city, and which then leaves some of the villages. They Ray of Hope had said that one time they came across a village that they pulled in, and there was nobody older than 14 there. They had left the 13 and 14-year-olds in charge of all the children, and all the adults had gone into the city for a month to get work. And so, but they said the really bad thing about that was there's no adults there. There's a couple of adults, but very few adults there. So river bandits would come along and do whatever they wanted to with the children, and
So heartbreaking.
so that's one of the things I was looking at. I've been doing remote work for years. I had to start doing remote work because I was taking care of my wife, and so I'm looking at that and thinking, there's most of those villages, they usually have somebody that has a satellite internet connection, and it's like if we just train up a few people to be able to do something that could bring some money into the community, and then can help those communities get some income coming in, that could be fairly sustainable. So most of those communities do have some sort of an agricultural product that they produce and they take into the city to sell, but floods and whatever can really makes that very difficult to be the only source of of income for an entire community. And so yeah, so I was like, yeah, we could set up some ways of creating some training and helping them find some ways that they could do some more work from there. But that of course will require building out a fair amount of infrastructure and training up some people. So we're starting out in the larger communities along there, starting to provide some. So I've worked on providing some computers to children's centers and schools or community centers, churches, just any place where we can provide a computer or two where the children can start to have some access to a computer to start to learn a little bit about them. But I've also noticed that a lot of these communities may have nothing else, but almost all of them have a smartphone or a cell phone of some sort. And so we're really focusing on looking at things that we can train them to do from their phones. And so, so I mean, even someone going and creating a day in the life of a villager, and become a TikTok influencer from the jungle, But just some, there are some communities that do ecotourism and helping them set up some, some more, some options for remote ecotourism, and where they do some videos of things that they're doing and use those for marketing as well as for another way of another form of income. So yeah, so like I said, it's just a lot of providing resources and helping them, working with the communities to see what kind of things they want to be able to do and giving them access to resources. I came from grew up in a farming community. Did a lot of medical stuff because of my wife's illness, and of course, technology and business. And so I know how to find information for all kinds of things that they might want to try to do. So it's kind of being a resource agent for them as much as anything else. But and then like I said, just trying to help providing access to technology in ways that can start to develop some skills there.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And I love the heart behind what you're doing. And my head immediately goes to ways we can create tools and resources to help people with a heart like yours distribute, share the load, or maybe even plant flags for other people to pick up and help with. Right? That's something that's incredibly important. I think I've thought a lot about helping in these situations, and obviously you're doing it, and so it's incredible to see you doing it. One of the things I've been thinking about for tools to help these indigenous peoples, and I'm asking for your opinion here. It's how useful do you think it would be to be able to load a large amount of digital resources of some kind, onto like a Raspberry Pi like I have here, $35 computer?
That is exactly part of the original vision was to in fact I that's what I set up as Raspberry Pis down in the children's center, and I loaded Kiwix with Wikipedia and Wikiquotes and all those in Portuguese onto so that they have access to those. And
are you familiar with
I'm
internet?
hoping
Is that something that you use as well?
What's that?
Are you familiar with Internet in a Box?
Yes. Yeah. I
was just curious if you'd ever use that as well.
I I looked at that fairly early on, but yeah, that's one of them that I'm looking at as a potential tool for that. And but yeah, I based what I was doing off of some of the information that had been put there. But yeah, I hope to eventually, it'd be great to have like an AI medical database and tools like that too. That because in these villages, they can get a simple cut that nobody there knows really how to
Yeah.
treat. And
Yep.
by the time someone with any kind of medical experience comes by, it's gotten so bad that they have to lose their leg, and
So hard.
if they'd have just had
A little bit.
some sort of a database to tell them, yeah, here's all you have to do is clean it. Here's how you clean it. You know, but or more severe things that if they that would be able to help them determine if something needs to if someone needs to be taken into the city. They do have ambulance boats, and they have ways of getting people into the city, but they have no they often have no way of knowing whether this is important enough to to take someone into the city. It is that trip into the city on an emergency basis usually uses up their supply of fuel for the month. So
Yeah.
so it's not something that they can do as a just in case type of a situation. So having a resource like that where they could be able to have a little bit better knowledge of what's of this is this going to be an emergency, or is this something that that we have what we need to be able to treat here, and what do we do to treat it?
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense to me. I think you're absolutely right that we need to get to basically a self-contained solution that can daisy chain together with other self-contained solutions. And of course, if they have access to the internet, can connect. But then we have to assume that these people rely upon bandwidth independence, so that if they're offline or if they're online, the experience needs to scaffold to whatever their bandwidth capabilities are,
Exactly.
including. Yeah. So I'll share a few things, and then we do have to close here, which I'm sad to do, because man, I love the heart, I love what you're talking about. But I'll share a few things of what I'm working on and where I'm envisioning trying to help. And I'm gonna get to, after I share this, I want to get to you sharing however people can contact you and get a hold of you. And then I want to reconvene in the future, because this is a huge issue, and there's not many people on the front lines trying to solve it. So it's just so wonderful to meet a fellow believer with the heart of Christ, and being not just the heart but the hands and the feet, right?
Yep.
And it's easy for me to say all these things as an armchair quarterback back here, like, do this and that, but I'm not in the field. I'm not doing it. So one of the things I'm working on briefly, and I'm running this by you for input, and then also I want to follow up and try and actualize this whenever we can. And I don't have timelines here, since I'm entirely self-funded and I don't have resources. Currently, I have a nonprofit called AO Lab. We pay developers in low-income countries, because that's all I can afford, and also a wonderful opportunity for them to work on creating tools for the Bible to help people love and live out the Bible is my goal. I work with a lot of Muslims, and I work with a developer in Brazil and in Venezuela. Because I can only afford to pay $5 an hour. That's the maximum I can go.
Yep.
So you know how it is. But we've been my team, not the developers I'm referring to, but my team for the last several years of the nonprofit, we've been developing a 3D web-based simulation tool that's entirely open source MIT. It runs in 3D on the web, and it interoperates with AI. So you can have multiple AI in there, and it's entirely bandwidth independent. So you can run the whole thing online or offline, so that it just plugs into a Raspberry Pi from a Docker image, something like that. And then you have an off-the-grid, basically a holodeck in the form of a Raspberry Pi. Holodeck's a Star Trek reference, if you know that one. And the goal there is to, kind of create the self-contained simulation environment. And then as an additional layer alongside, I want to integrate. I currently have been exploring Internet in a Box to say, hey, let's put our web-based simulation environment and package that with Internet in a Box. And they have basically an offline web layer that allows you to access Wikipedia and several other important web resources. And then the next logical step after that would be to put an AI on a chip that then people can do. I do have a friend that has a RISC-V low cost, high compute for the cost Raspberry Pi-ish device that would be useful for those applications. And for AI on a chip, you really want to pair that with, if you can, with the RISC-V FPGA, a field programmable gate array that's able to dynamically chain itself on the fly to adapt itself for whatever ML task. That's so important when you're working in that world. So all that to say, my goal is to make something like that, get that to $100 or less price point. If $50 or less, and then make that a tool that you or anyone else could use and then build upon. And then leave those in the field. And then, of course, if they can find anywhere they can connect to the internet, it'd be wonderful to then pair them up with sister small groups, sister churches, house churches, really let the body of Christ say, hey, we're going to virtually adopt this community. They're going to have all these resources. We don't have any specific expertise, but if they have questions, we're going to have someone here to just listen, help, and pray for them. And whatever virtual support we can provide, we'll provide it. And then, of course, physical, that's up to the communities to know what they can do. But then you can begin to place these, basically these simulation portals where people can have a real, they can be the presence of Christ and hopefully the hands of faith in Christ in whatever capacity the connectivity and distance allows for, right? And just kind of create this basically a backpack that you can carry into a village and leave behind. And of course, it has to be adapted to their language. There's localization challenges there. And there's a number of challenges to solve there. This is probably a $400,000 or $500,000 task just to package this all up nicely. And I'm guessing the cost. I don't know. I'm just making numbers up right now. You'd have to budget it out carefully with, I have this dev over this time that can do this work. And that exploration needs to be done. But among other things, that's part of my life quest. And I'm going to die trying or make it happen in the next 3 or 4 years is my hope. And if I had the right team or funding, we could make that happen probably this year.
Yep.
Or an MVP of that, right?
Right.
But in the meantime, people like you are actually doing it. And, that's it. I know that the motivations of our heart matter to God, but the obedience of our hands and feet matters a whole lot more. And so it's wonderful to see you doing it. And you just, I have all the respect in the world and all the appreciation for what you're doing and just the way that you're blessing all the people that you're encountering.
Well, thanks.
So what do you think about all that?
That is, yeah, and that's, you and I have such a similar vision of, the ways that, technology can be used to help people and yeah, it's, so yeah, it is great.
But, and there's not many solutions that you can deploy, but if you try and hold all those options and say, hey, we have to support all these use cases, you really don't have many other strategies, right? You kind of have to go web-based, because if you're going app-based, anything that iOS or Android does, those certificates have to renew every so often.
Yep.
So if you make an app and publish it and then send it into a village, the whole thing is just a brick after 6 months, right? And then it's useless. So you have to go web-based, but you have to have web plus offline capability,
Yep.
Which is very doable.
Yep.
People think the web means online. It doesn't. Web just means, that's a whole other conversation.
Yep.
And you kind of have to, plan for bandwidth independence, and then build as many layers on top of that to make this as easy and approachable as you possibly can. Chet, how can people reach you, contact you, support you?
So I have right now the best way is I have a newsletter on Substack. It's called chetbailey.substack.com, and I'll go ahead and share that here so you can see it.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I'm looking for it. So here. Oh, wait, I think I found it. The Gringo who listens to God here.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, perfect. You got it. Even better.
Yep. Yeah, it says chetbailey.substack.com, and it does have a both a free and a paid subscription capability. So it's $8 a month or $80 a year for the paid one, and that's the best way for someone that wants to just help support what I'm doing. And then that newsletter I update with what I'm the different projects I'm doing, the different travels I'm doing, the things I see out in my travels, and that's what I'm really building up is my primary way of people connecting to me and getting and helping to support it. And then I'm working on other things too. I do. I've got both the consulting and the donate page up there on the top of the screen. On top of that screen, for you can also hire me for consulting. I do distributed computer. Used to work for a global telecommunications company, so I can do all kinds of stuff. But well, like I said earlier, my real focus is trying to help support these communities. And then, of course, I also do take donations, and I'm going to be setting up a fundraiser to help support one of the churches is building a youth camp, and I'm going to actually set up a fundraiser for them to help raise some money for their youth camp location. They've and I actually do have I think a post on there. Yep, one of the posts on there is about that particular camp that they're doing, and so I've already posted some pictures up there related to that.
Well, that is incredible. I love the way that you describe what you do too, as just being the digital tent maker. That's such a wonderful biblical message.
Yep.
Well, hey, thank you so much. I hope that you find some subscribers. I know that you've got at least one subscriber since I just subscribed, but I hope you find a few more. And for those who want to find out about AO Lab, you can. I don't even have a website right now, but you can learn about us at Linktree Linktree. I keep messing it up. linktr.ee/hello AO Lab. I'll share my whole screen here so you can see the URL as well. But yes, just Linktree hello AO Lab, and you'll find me, and you can subscribe as well. But don't subscribe to me. Go subscribe to Chet. This is incredible. That's my advice. So, hey, Chet, thank you so much for being a part of this. God bless you in everything that you're doing. I am going to pester you in the future, and we are going to continue working on these problems until we solve them or Jesus comes back, or both.
Yep.
So,
yep. Thank you.
All right. Hey, well, God bless you, and tell the parrot we say hi, and enjoy the beautiful weather. God bless, Chet.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.